What can you expect from Assassin's Creed Valhalla's open world? I have been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla for 4 years. Believe it or not, the game was released in 2020. I've also played other Assassin's Creed games in the franchise, from the first Assassin's Creed game dating to the most recent Assassin's Creed games that you can now play, for example, Assassin's Creed Mirage. Other open world Assassin's Creed games are Assassin's Creed Origins, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and you could argue a little bit more that others are also open world and not really in a boxed off city or landscape area, because you can exit some of those areas from time to time. Of course, open world is not having those borders where you can be stopped and where you can continue to travel and explore. So, what can you expect from Assassin's Creed Valhalla's open world? Assassin's Creed Valhalla is set in the UK. I say the UK because there are, of course, other areas that you can get into, and we'll get into that later on in this video. But the main place where you will be adventuring and traveling around and doing most of the main mission quests is, of course, the UK. So, from the UK landscape that is in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the open world of the UK landscape, you can travel north up to Northumbria. Northumbria is Scotland. What you will find when you're traveling to that area, Northumbria, in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, is you will find a lot of snow. There is a lot of snow in that area, and during the night, the snow remains. You can traverse different mountains around the UK in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but in Northumbria, you might find that there might be a lot more ice, and you will slip on different types of textures of ice if you're paying attention to the game and not just completely running and running and climbing and climbing. Occasionally, you might find that Eivor will slip and slide on different surfaces depending on where you actually are and what you're trying to climb. You can also find familiar locations in the UK real world, like the White Cliffs of Dover. In the game, if you go down south, all the way past London to the coast of the UK, you can find the White Cliffs of Dover, and you can climb the White Cliffs of Dover, and you might also find some treasure. And then, of course, north, east, south, west, to the west of the UK, you would normally find Wales and Ireland. We'll get into that in a minute, but you can find Stonehenge. So in the west, Stonehenge is at the west of the UK, England area, and you can find Stonehenge, and there is actually something for you to do at Stonehenge. I think this is really cool. I have taken a picture in game, and when you're in the open world of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you can actually take pictures that can be shared online in the game. So there is an online feature in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. When a player dies in a specific area and you have your online services enabled, so basically you're connected to the internet and you're playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla while you're playing while you have it connected to the internet, you will find players that have been felled by the enemies that you encounter. So as a Viking Drenga from Norway that is invading the UK, Norman run UK, you will find that these enemies can take out your other Drenga friends. So they're playing the same story, but they can be smote, these heathens can be smoted by the enemies that you encounter, and then you can avenge them. So you have the right to avenge these Vikings that have been felled, these other players that have been felled in the land that you are traversing, that you're traveling around, that you're finding all these different landmarks and more. You also might find locations that are still standing till this very day. The research that has gone into Assassin's Creed Valhalla and the landscape that is given in the game is actually from the UK itself. So if I'm not mistaken, Cambridge University had a hand in the research of this game. And you will find that, for example, Tamworth Castle, which is still slightly standing, you can find that and you can go to Tamworth right now. I've been there, I filmed a wedding there at one point. You can actually find that in the game. You might also find other things around in the game that are still standing till this very day. You can also find the history behind different things in the UK as well. So there are, of course, different ways that our cities and boroughs are, and different things that are very specific to these boroughs and cities that we have here in the UK that are still alive and standing today. And you can find some of those things in the game. I do implore you to look into these things, because you might find that your area or an area you've been to in the UK is actually in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's a very overlooked aspect of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I don't know why people haven't. I mean, during the initial release, I remember a lot of people from the UK that played the game and they were like, "Oh no way! Like I've been there and it's in the game." Although it's set at a time era that we are long beyond and is long gone. Here in the UK, a lot of those buildings and a lot of that history is still around today, and you might find that these older buildings are still standing. Now, down in the northeast south, you also have London. So you have a little bit of history of London as well, our capital here in the UK. If you're looking for Wales, though, there is a little bit of a downer there. So Wales seems to be not an area that is explored in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm not sure why this is and why this is the case, or why it was a choice that was made. But Wales is very sort of obviously excluded from Northumbria, which is Scotland, Leicestershire, which is Leicester and so slightly Birmingham, and North Hampshire, like Wessex is also involved as well. But for some reason, Wales, which is to the west here in the UK from England, is excluded. There is some Welsh history in the game, of course, and one of the main missions, of course, takes place towards that area and is a very Welsh driven mission. And you can find some historical Saxons and more. I don't know why Wales as the landscape is excluded, but it is. Also, a difference with Assassin's Creed Valhalla that you will find very special to it, it's very specific to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, is the way that you can traverse the land when you're on your horse or your chosen horse type, because there are different types of horses and there are different types of mounts depending on how much of the game you've completed or what you've purchased from the store that is available in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So keep that in mind. For example, there's at one point in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you can purchase Ursa Major, which is if I'm not mistaken, mythical bear. Is a constellation. There's an Ursa Major constellation as well. Like if you look at the stars, there's a set of constellation stars that are named after Ursa Major. But it's literally like a mythical bear, and you can ride that mythical bear in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but it's still just a skin on top of your horse. So think of it that way. That's how I think about it anyway. It's technically a skin on top of your mount, even though it does act different, makes different noises. It acts as a bear. It's doing bear movements. It's a bear. But yeah, if you're playing the normal canon story, you're not purchasing these things on top of Assassin's Creed Valhalla to give your gaming experience a little bit of a different twist, because it's a twist that you can optionally take. Then you will have a horse, a steed that you can level up. What I'm saying is very specific to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, is that your horse can be trained to swim. So you can be and also gallop quite fast. So in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I think it's the fastest mount, one of the fastest mounts I've ever been on in the Assassin's Creed franchise. The mount is very powerful. You can travel from the middle of England in the you can travel from Liverpool to Scotland quite quickly. It won't take you that long to travel from Liverpool to Scotland, or if you're going from Leicester to Scotland, Birmingham to Scotland, you can do that quite quickly when you're playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. If you're really paying attention to the landscape as well, you will see where cities are and where they began as well. So they've gone back in time. Imagine they've just turned back the clock. They turned back the hands of time on mainland England and Scotland. That's what Assassin's Creed Valhalla's open world is. Now, I've said that Wales is locked off. What about the other areas that you can explore? So there are other lands that you can travel to. Ireland, for example, is in an expansion, and you can travel to Ireland for the Wrath of the Druids. Wrath of the Druids is a DLC that you can purchase in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This will open up the land of Ireland, and you can travel around Ireland, which looks very different to Assassin's Creed Valhalla's mainland, England and Scotland. There are a few more mountains that are green in that area. There's also Vinland. Vinland is the USA, America. There is a connection between Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So during the Vinland quest, which is in, if I'm not mistaken, the main story, it's not a DLC, it's not something that you have to purchase or add on to your game. You will travel to Vinland and you will do something very special there without any spoilers. And you can do that in the game and you can travel around Vinland, which is in the open world style, just like England. There's a lot to go around in Vinland. I think Vinland is one of the smaller areas out of the ones that are given to you in Assassin's Creed Valhalla DLCs and main mission quests. So Vinland is, to me, slightly smaller, but it's very more it's more difficult to get around because there's so many mountains. It's in a time where there's not a lot of cities around. It's West Indian, if you can call it West Indian, even though West Indian is really captioned towards the Caribbean, but you kind of get the picture. It's in America and there are a lot of mountains to traverse and climb and such. So check that out as well. There's also Vinland in the game. You can also go to France. So it's not just mainland England, Ireland, a little bit of the USA, but in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, they expanded even further. You can travel to France. A lot of people have overlooked this as well. And that is another, if I'm not mistaken, it's another DLC. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I've been doing it recently and I should really have its name. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to quickly go into my game because I've got it in front of me right now. And I want to quickly have a look at what that add-on is because it is available right now. And there's even more as well. So it's not just these real world lands, but they're also dream world you can also travel into. So the Siege of Paris is how you travel to France. So the Siege of Paris is an add-on to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. You get that add-on. It's a whole, basically an additional game to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This is one of the ways that it's been continuing for 4 years now. Assassin's Creed Valhalla has so much to offer in terms of its open world. So France, again, is slightly different. You might encounter some fog depending on which land you're going to. So once you've unlocked these lands, other than the expansion that I'm going to get to in a moment, so I'm not confusing you, once you've unlocked the real world lands in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for example, France, Ireland, which are the other ones that we've just covered as well, that I'm not going to get, France, Ireland, yeah, so France, Ireland, and the UK, once you've unlocked different lands, there is more, and I get into that as well. I've completely missed one of the main lands that you start in, right? So of course I don't want to get names wrong though, so I just want to get things right. So what I'm going to do right now is I've got the game in front of me. I'm just going to click the atlas, but once you've unlocked them, you click the atlas. So when you're looking at the map, you can press Y, or you're looking at your quest, you can press Y in your main menu and you will unlock a menu where you can travel to the lands that you've been to. So you begin the game in Norway. The Norwegians travel to the UK, just like they do in real world history, and they try to occupy their own lands in the UK, which of course makes some tension, and then that's the tension that you are involved in as a Viking, and that's part of the Assassin's Creed Valhalla story. The assassins have given Eivor the tools to fight in these lands, and there is a reason why. And Basim is the character who mildly trained Eivor. So Eivor was a fighter, a Drenga, a Viking beforehand, and of course giving this Viking. So I need to plug in my laptop as well so it doesn't go off. Give me a sec, because I thought it was plugged in and I just saw it just flash up at me. And I'm like, why? She's running low. What are you doing? 1 second. There you go. It was plugged in. It just decided to kind of like tell me that the battery was running low, and if it does that, then the video stops recording. So where was I? So yeah, so when you're I'm not making any cuts, just keeping it completely natural and giving you all the information I can about Assassin's Creed Valhalla right now. So you begin in Norway. Norway is very icy, it's very cold, there's not a lot of light. The way Irving Haaland explains his homeland of Norway is entirely true, and if you take the perspective of what Erling Haaland sees his homeland like, and then you put it into game form, that is what you have in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There's not a lot of sunlight in Norway. So you do, of course, get sunlight, but I think they get like less hours of bright daylight per day or something like that. And you feel that when you're playing the beginning of the game. That can or might be off-putting when you're trying to travel around the open world. But one thing I will say is travel around Norway a little bit longer if you can, deal with the low light, because there is some loot there that is very specific, and it looks like only I have it right now. Right, so look, I can't find, I haven't seen anybody else using that weapon that I have found in Norway. I've never seen anybody else use it. Like, the weapon is called, and I'm gonna go right here as well because I've got it in front of me. Right, so it is a spear, and it's called Gungnir. Gungnir. And that spear is found in Norway when I go back to it. So I went back to it later on after completing the story, and then I found Gungnir, and it's a mythical spear. But yeah, just saying, there's so much in the open world, and you also have side missions that you will encounter. Sometimes they're themed side missions based on real world history and legend. So like, you know, if there's a story about a man in a tower, for example, in a specific area in the UK, and it's like folklore, you will see that. You can find the Shire, the real inspiration behind the Shire from the Lord of the Rings. You can find it in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So all of that real world history and lore you can actually find in the game as well. They do play with these things, and they've looked into what it is, and it's actually in the game. So I've also find that really interesting as well. So if you want to find the Shire, where you can see these buildings in green hills in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it is there, and I can show you that as well if that's something that you want to find. Now, there is so many different textures. There's stone, there's grass, there's ice, you have rain every now and then, different seasons, but the seasons tend to be from rain to daylight, and the snow tends to be really encompassed around Northumbria. The snow does not leave Northumbria in terms of what you can encounter. There is some down south as well towards the coast, but the season really doesn't affect some of the areas. It can affect the main homestead area that you build. So Ravensthorpe, occasionally during Ravensthorpe's season changes, it matches the season changes in real world. So, for example, during the winter, and you have a Christmas type of season, the Vikings have something different because, of course, they don't celebrate Christmas, but you can do that during that time. And Ubisoft actually changed the seasons based on what was happening in real life for Ravensthorpe. So you have your very own Ravensthorpe. You decorate it yourself. You unlock different characters for your Ravensthorpe homestead, and these characters enable you to do different things. For example, you can do fishing quests, and you can collect fish for one of your citizens in your Ravensthorpe. And during the season change, they might be doing something different. I thought that was good. So there's that as well from the open world. You have your own little areas where season changes can take effect and change things there. The water is gorgeous in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So when you're able to swim, you won't be, just, oh man, I've got to swim again. It does feel quite good. So like if you, I feel like I want to go for a dip right now in a lake. You can actually go and do that in Assassin's Creed Valhalla as well. So these are all of the things that you can expect from the open world of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. You can also encounter members of the Order as well that you are taking out. So you could be just traveling randomly. Members of the Order can be around in this open world, and then you ended up in a fight. You are hunted as well because of the things that you are doing. There is bounties that are put out on your head, and occasionally when you're traveling around in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, these bounties catch up with you, and you might have a bunch of bandits that randomly try to jump you when you're traveling. That happens as well. So you could be traveling from an area to an area, then some bandits have a bounty on your head, and then when you eliminate them, you kill them, you can pick up the letter to find out why they are hunting you, and you can read that letter. That's another thing you can also encounter in Assassin's Creed Valhalla's open world. So there are all these different lands that you can also go to as well. The same sort of mechanic happens in these different lands, but you might have different colored grass, different kind of colored leaves, different types of trees, less mud as well, because you can encounter the very English muddy countryside every now and then, and you can be running through that, and you can see the different changes from when it's rained and stuff as well. So there's all that in Assassin's Creed open world, as well as a DLC which completely opens it up. So there are quite a few actually, right? So if you go into the store here, there's quite a lot of additional DLCs to the game. So you have, of course, the Dawn of Ragnarok. Now, the Dawn of Ragnarok is huge. Like it's not just one area. It's a dream world that Eivor goes to, and Eivor becomes Odin. So when you are Odin, you can use the mounts you've already unlocked, you can use the weapons you've already unlocked, but of course the world is entirely different because it's a dream world. It's Eivor's dream world where he becomes Odin. So there is, of course, myth and legend mixed, and there's also, is this a real world? And you are, that the game asks that question with the Odin. I think that's part of the, because obviously you have the Isu in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Yeah, have in all Assassin's Creed games you have an Isu storyline. So Odin is an Isu, and you can learn about that story. So then it's like, is that in lore line with Assassin's Creed? And then you find out more, and you're allowed to learn more. So you can go into the Dawn of Ragnarok and you can find out a lot more. Now there are loads of different lands to this. So these dream worlds, you have Svartum. There's so many complicated names for them, but there are different dream worlds for the Dawn of Ragnarok. I can dive in a little bit deeper with that as well. So if you want more of that, there's a lot to go into. There's also another dream world which is nothing to do with, it's still something to do with Odin, and that is called, it's not Way of the Berserker, it's not Legend of Beowulf, which are also available in the game as well. So the other one, I'm trying to find it here because I'm not sure if it's a download. I don't think it is a download. It's in Ravensthorpe. That's right, it is in Ravensthorpe. So, am I in Ravensthorpe right now in the game? I'm not. I'm just going to quickly go there because I want to get the name of this one for you, because it's like a completely different world where you can try to save Thor, and you can also yield Mjolnir. So Mjolnir is Thor's hammer. You can wield that. I think it's called like the Forgotten World or something, and you can find like dragons and stuff. It basically becomes like a whole different type of game. Like you just and like that world is more difficult to get around because there are these iron bridges that once you've crossed over them, they fall, so you can't go back over that bridge. If that makes sense. And I'm gonna get there right now because I've got the game in front of me, so I'm just gonna quickly move in my Ravensthorpe right now. The textures and the colors and the way it looks, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, is very well done. You don't really get pinned behind trees because there's so much space, and they have thought about, how the player's moving around the area and all this sort of stuff. I'm moving through Ravensthorpe right now. I could show you more of this game, but of course, if you are interested in seeing more of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, then do give me a thumbs up on this video. Right, so the place where you can travel to a new world is it's in Ravensthorpe, and it is Nilheim. So you can travel to Nilheim. The names are really difficult for me to pronounce, but Nilheim, I'm traveling there right now. Let's just have a look at it. Because you can wake up from that dream world as well, and it's very dark, and there's dragons, and there's these mythical creatures, and there's lava, and there's so much. So it's like Assassin's Creed Valhalla has so much that has been overlooked in the franchise, and if you miss this out, you will miss a huge storyline and story beat in Assassin's Creed. Like, I don't think if you're following the story, and if this is continued on to Shadows, you'd be like, oh, you'd be like, you'd be like, oh, I didn't know there was so much left behind in terms of storyline by not playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So yeah, there's definitely a lot that you can expect from the open world of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because you have these different lands that you can go into. You have these side mission quests that you can get into. There's gear and a load of loot that you can collect. A lot of gamers, I hear, did give up on this open world because it was so big, and I feel like you're missing out on a heck of a lot if you do that. If you persist and you ride through it and you continue. I've completed the main mission storyline, But if you ride through it and you go through it, you will be rewarded. It's a very rewarding experience. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is. The open world has a lot to offer. There are caves, and these caves are huge, and there's loads of different things that you can encounter in these caves. There are these cursed skulls that when you get near them, Eivor will begin to limp and huddle and waddle towards through this area until that curse is eradicated by his bow and arrow, or you've struck it with your blade or spear or axes. And yeah, man, definitely give it more of a look. This is my authentic, non-cutting, straight talk of what you can expect from the Assassin's Creed Valhalla open world. If you've enjoyed this video of me just talking one-on-one with you about this open world that you can experience in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, then give us that thumbs up. I haven't even had a coffee yet. I need a coffee. It's right here. I'm going to sip it. Oh yeah. So the thumbnail for this video is going to be flat. It's just going to be me, not flat, it's going to be full, because it's going to be me in the thumbnail. On screen right now, you can see some more content that I've uploaded. This is a one-on-one chat that I've decided to have with you. You can always hit me up in the comment section down below. I'm here. I talk to you guys. I don't leave you in the dust. So yeah, man, when you comment, as long as you're not being like overly hateful or spiteful, which I'm just gonna kind of be like, yo, bro, what do you want me to say back to you? You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm here. Hit me up in the comment section. Check out the content you see on screen right now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, man.